Breaking Stereotypes, Lesbian and Bi Relationships Unfiltered. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, hi, I'm your name, and today, we're diving deep into something real, raw, and long overdue. Let me ask you this. How many times have you seen lesbian or bisexual relationships portrayed in movies or TV shows in a way that felt off? Maybe over-sexualized, maybe tokenized, or maybe just plain inaccurate. You're not alone. Today's episode is called Breaking Stereotypes, Lesbian and Bi Relationships Unfiltered, and trust me, the title says it all. We're stripping away the cliches, the over-polished storylines, and the one-size-fits-all labels that so often miss the heart of what queer love really looks like. Now, before we dive in, let's clear the air. This video isn't about shaming anyone or pointing fingers. It's about starting a conversation. It's about challenging what we've been told by the media, by society, even by ourselves. And creating space for stories that are complex, beautiful, and deeply human. Because the truth is, lesbian and bi relationships are as diverse and dynamic as the people in them. They're filled with joy, conflict, intimacy, awkward moments, passion, heartbreak, humor, just like any other relationship. But often, what we see in the mainstream skips over all of that nuance in favor of tropes. You know the ones. The experimental phase narrative. The hypersexualized femme-femme fantasy. The idea that bisexual women are confused or not committed. The assumption that lesbian relationships are always dramatic, toxic, or destined to fail. We're calling BS on all of it. So in this video, we're getting unfiltered. You'll hear real stories, real perspectives, and real truths from people in the community who've lived it. The good, the bad, the confusing, and the empowering. We'll talk about the joys of queer love, the challenges of navigating identity, the importance of visibility, and how we can start rewriting the narratives that have held us back. No scripts. No sensationalism. Just honesty. This is a safe space. So whether you're here to learn, to feel seen, or to challenge your own thinking, welcome. And if you're someone who's in a lesbian or bi relationship yourself, I hope today's video feels like a warm, affirming reminder that your love is real, valid, and worth celebrating. Alright, you ready to break some stereotypes? Let's get into it. Love beyond labels. In a world increasingly focused on inclusivity and understanding, the concept of love beyond labels offers a fresh lens through which we can explore human connection, particularly within lesbian and bisexual relationships. These relationships, like all others, are deeply rooted in emotional bonds, mutual respect, and genuine communication. What sets them apart is not the gender of the individuals involved, but rather the courage it takes to love authentically in a society that has often demanded conformity. Lesbian and bisexual relationships challenge the traditional constructs of gender roles in love. Historically, many romantic partnerships have been influenced by societal expectations of how men and women should behave, who should lead, who should care, who should compromise. But in relationships between women, those roles are not predetermined. This allows for a more fluid and dynamic understanding of love. Decisions about power, support, responsibility, and intimacy are based on personality, preferences, and mutual agreements, not outdated stereotypes. This absence of rigid roles often fosters stronger communication. Lesbian and bisexual partners tend to be more open about emotional needs and boundaries, leading to deeper levels of understanding. Without the societal script to fall back on, they must write their own, which often results in a relationship built on authenticity. Conversations about identity, past experiences, and future goals become essential, and this fosters trust and intimacy. Moreover, the diversity within lesbian and bisexual relationships reflects the broader spectrum of human experience. Some couples may include one partner who is more masculine presenting and another who is more feminine presenting, while others may share similar expressions of gender. Each relationship is unique, shaped by the individuals within it, not by cultural assumptions or norms. Bisexual individuals may also experience unique dynamics, navigating the nuances of their identity within a relationship and sometimes facing erasure or misunderstanding from outside observers. But love, when built on respect, creates a space where all identities are affirmed and celebrated. It's also important to acknowledge that these relationships often exist in the face of societal challenges. Lesbian and bisexual couples may face discrimination, invisibility, or judgment. Yet, despite these obstacles, their love thrives not because it is different, but because it is real. Their strength lies in the choice to love openly, in the courage to be visible, and in the resilience to build meaningful connections despite external pressures. Ultimately, love beyond labels is not just about rejecting categorization, it's about embracing the full humanity of each person involved. It's about recognizing that the core of every healthy relationship, whether between women, men, or any combination thereof, is emotional connection, shared values, and the willingness to grow together. When we move beyond labels, we begin to see love in all its richness and complexity. By honoring lesbian and bisexual relationships for what they are, varied, vibrant, and deeply personal, we move closer to a world where all love is celebrated equally. Love beyond labels is not just a concept, it's a testament to the power of connection unbounded by assumption. Media versus reality. Unfiltered lives of lesbian and bi couples. In an era where representation is increasingly discussed, the portrayal of queer relationships in mainstream media remains a double-edged sword. While visibility has improved significantly, lesbian and bisexual relationships are still too often filtered through a lens that either sensationalizes or oversimplifies them. These portrayals can be entertaining, dramatic, or provocative, but they rarely reflect the rich, layered reality of everyday queer life. Mainstream media often casts lesbian and bi couples as either overly sexualized fantasy figures or side characters in someone else's story. In many television shows and films, queer women are depicted through a male gaze, with their relationships designed to titillate or shock, rather than to resonate with authenticity. The intimacy between women is frequently flattened into a spectacle or diluted into cliché tropes, either fleeting and hypersexual or tragic and doomed. This distorted view creates a gap between public perception and the lived reality of queer couples. In truth, lesbian and bisexual women experience the full spectrum of human emotion and struggle, just like any other couple. Their relationships aren't always filled with drama and fireworks. Instead, they are often grounded in mundane, but deeply meaningful experiences, negotiating household chores, celebrating small wins at work, dealing with aging parents, or figuring out how to raise kids in a world still laced with subtle biases. Intimacy in real lesbian and bi relationships isn't just physical, it's emotional, intellectual, and deeply rooted in trust. Conversations about identity, coming out, mental health, and navigating societal expectations are common. And while these couples may face unique challenges, such as dealing with biphobia within and outside the LGBTQ+ community, or the pressure of proving the legitimacy of their relationships, they also build resilience, humor, and shared strength that isn't often portrayed on screen. Moreover, real queer relationships are as varied as the people in them. Some couples are long distance, some are polyamorous, others are monogamous, and many defy easy labeling. The tendency of the media to present only young, thin, white, conventionally attractive couples erases the diversity of bodies, races, ages, and experiences within the lesbian and bi communities. What's missing is the normalization of these relationships, showing them in ordinary settings, with complex emotions, but without the unnecessary dramatic arcs. Real representation would look like a bi woman discussing work stress with her partner, or a lesbian couple managing a joint mortgage and navigating family dynamics. These stories, though quieter, hold immense power because they affirm that queer love is not an exception or a spectacle, it is simply human. As audiences become more media literate and vocal, there's a growing demand for authenticity. Queer creators are stepping up, using platforms like web series, independent films, and social media to tell stories that reflect their truths. The hope is that one day, mainstream media will catch up not just in showing queer relationships, but in showing them as they truly are: complex, messy, joyful, real. not just a phase. The validity of bisexuality in monogamous relationships. Bisexuality is often misunderstood, misrepresented, or entirely erased in discussions about sexuality. One of the most common misconceptions is that bisexuality is just a phase, a transitional identity, or something that vanishes once a person enters a committed relationship. But bisexuality is not defined by current partnerships. It is an enduring sexual orientation that remains valid regardless of who someone is dating. Whether a bisexual person is in a monogamous relationship with someone of the same gender or the opposite gender, their bisexuality does not disappear. Bisexuality is the attraction to more than one gender, not necessarily at the same time or in the same way. It doesn't mean a person is confused, indecisive, or promiscuous. Yet these damaging stereotypes persist, especially when bisexual individuals enter monogamous relationships. A bisexual person in a same-gender relationship may be mislabeled as gay or lesbian, while one in an opposite-gender relationship may be presumed straight. These assumptions erase the bi identity, pushing bisexual people to the margins of both LGBTQ+ and heterosexual spaces. Visibility matters. When bisexuality is recognized and affirmed, it combats stigma, fosters community, and validates individual experiences. Many bisexual people struggle with internalized biphobia because society constantly questions their legitimacy. Being told that your identity is just a phase can lead to feelings of shame and isolation. This is especially painful when the erasure comes not from strangers, but from friends, partners, or even LGBTQ+ spaces that are supposed to be inclusive. It's also important to recognize the emotional toll of this erasure. Bisexual individuals are statistically more likely to face mental health challenges, including anxiety and depression, often as a result of being invalidated. Constantly having to explain or defend one's identity creates a burden that straight and gay people may not experience to the same extent. Simply acknowledging that bisexuality is real and enduring can make a significant difference. Being in a monogamous relationship doesn't require someone to abandon their full identity. Just as a person doesn't stop being a musician because they aren't currently playing an instrument, a bisexual person doesn't stop being bisexual because they're with one partner. Their capacity for attraction hasn't changed, only their relationship status has. Recognition also allows bisexual people to celebrate their identity openly. Pride events, discussions around queer representation, and inclusive policy changes need to reflect the diversity of the LGBTQ+ community, including those whose identities are often invisible. Representation in media, education, and everyday conversation helps normalize bisexuality and dismantle myths. Breaking gender norms in queer relationships, redefining love and roles. In a world long shaped by rigid gender expectations, queer relationships, especially those between lesbian and bisexual individuals, stand as a powerful force for change. One of the most profound contributions of these relationships is the way they challenge and dismantle traditional gender roles, offering a more fluid, authentic way of loving and living together. In queer partnerships, the outdated notion that there must be a man and a woman in every relationship simply doesn't apply, and that's where the beauty begins. For centuries, heteronormative models have dictated how couples should behave. The man is expected to be dominant, stoic, and the provider, while the woman is assigned nurturing, emotional, and domestic duties. These roles are not only limiting, they often create imbalanced power dynamics and unspoken emotional burdens. Queer relationships, by existing outside this binary, open the door to new frameworks of intimacy, equality, and partnership. In lesbian and bisexual relationships, partners often create their own dynamic based on mutual strengths and needs, rather than falling into default expectations. Who cooks? Who works longer hours? Who handles emotional conflict better? These questions are answered not based on gender, but on honest conversations and a desire for balance. This intentional structuring of a relationship helps develop deeper emotional intelligence and more equal sharing of responsibilities, both visible and invisible. Moreover, queer relationships actively question the idea that certain behaviors or traits are inherently masculine or feminine. For example, emotional vulnerability, traditionally labeled a feminine trait, is often embraced by both partners, allowing space for open communication and healing. Acts of strength and leadership are shared rather than reserved. In this way, these relationships push society to reimagine what strength, softness, care, and responsibility look like beyond gender. However, breaking gender norms doesn't come without challenges. Many queer couples still face external pressures to fit in or are questioned by others about who plays the man's role. These intrusive questions reflect a discomfort with ambiguity and a clinging to outdated scripts. But rather than conforming, queer couples often turn this discomfort into teachable moments, showing the world that love doesn't require a blueprint. Beyond the personal sphere, this shift has a broader cultural impact. By living authentically and resisting traditional molds, queer relationships contribute to a more inclusive understanding of love and gender for everyone, not just those in the LGBTQ+ community. Heterosexual couples, too, are beginning to see the benefits of more fluid, egalitarian dynamics in their own relationships. Ultimately, breaking gender norms isn't about rejecting roles entirely, it's about reclaiming the freedom to define them on one's own terms. In doing so, queer couples not only find deeper fulfillment in their partnerships, but also pave the way for a future where relationships are built on choice, not assumption, on love, not legacy. Community, support, and growth in lesbian and bi relationships. Lesbian and bisexual relationships, while filled with love and authenticity, often navigate a unique set of external pressures that can deeply impact how couples connect, grow, and thrive together. These pressures don't only come from broader society or family expectations. They can also emerge from within the LGBTQ+ community itself. In the face of this, the strength of community, mutual support, and open communication becomes not just helpful, but essential for long-term growth and emotional well-being. Family rejection or misunderstanding is one of the earliest and most painful challenges many lesbian and bi individuals face. Coming out, choosing a partner who doesn't fit the expected mold, or even just expressing one's identity openly can lead to strained relationships or exclusion. For couples, this can mean celebrating milestones like moving in together or getting engaged without the usual warmth or validation from loved ones. This emotional gap makes it even more crucial to build chosen families and support systems, people who uplift, listen, and affirm both individuals and the relationship they share. Beyond the family circle, society still imposes narrow expectations and harmful stereotypes. Lesbian relationships are often over-sexualized or dismissed as just a phase, while bi individuals frequently face erasure or invalidation, especially when in a same-gender relationship. The assumption that bisexual people are confused or unfaithful adds extra pressure, breeding unnecessary insecurity or distrust. These narratives create an environment where couples constantly feel the need to explain, prove, or defend their bond. In such situations, the power of a supportive partner becomes a sanctuary. Being seen, understood, and believed by the person you love creates a foundation that external criticism cannot shake. Even within the LGBTQ+ community, biases persist. Bi erasure, femme invisibility, or hierarchies that favor certain expressions of queerness can make lesbian and bi women feel excluded from the very spaces meant to protect them. Relationships that don't fit a visible or stereotypical mold might be judged as less valid or radical. But again, the solution isn't retreat, it's engagement and community building. By seeking out inclusive spaces, diverse voices, and affirming communities, whether online, in local groups, or through activism, lesbian and bi couples can find connection and strength. Growth in these relationships is not passive. It takes intentional communication, shared values, and resilience. Having honest conversations about identity, past experiences, and future goals allows couples to deepen their bond while respecting each other's individual journeys. It's about growing not just as a couple, but as two whole people who choose to walk together despite outside noise. At its core, love between lesbian and bi individuals is an act of courage, one that grows stronger through support, truth-telling, and community care. When the world doubts or tries to divide, these relationships thrive by reaching inward and outward, fostering environments where love isn't just accepted, but celebrated. Because when we build each other up, we don't just survive, we flourish. And there we have it, a real, unfiltered look into lesbian and bisexual relationships beyond the headlines, beyond the assumptions, and beyond the narrow boxes we've all been handed. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you genuinely. Thank you for showing up with an open mind and a willingness to listen. That alone helps shift the narrative, and it means more than you know. We've covered a lot today. The stereotypes that try to flatten our identities. The pressures we face both inside and outside the queer community. The beauty of queer love when it's allowed to just be, without expectations or judgment. And maybe, most importantly, we've heard voices that aren't always given a platform. But this conversation doesn't end here. It can't end here. Because breaking stereotypes is not a one-time thing, it's a process. It's a daily, conscious decision to see people as they truly are, rather than through the lens of outdated narratives or lazy generalizations. So whether you're part of the LGBTQ+ community, or you're an ally who wants to do better, I encourage you to keep questioning, keep listening, keep sharing, talk to your friends, challenge your media, unlearn, relearn, and grow. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today, it's this. Love doesn't need to fit into a mold to be real. It doesn't need to be palatable for mainstream audiences to be worthy. It doesn't need to look like anyone else's version of love. It just needs to be honest. And honestly, that's more than enough. If something in this video resonated with you, if you saw yourself or someone you love, or if it made you think differently, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. This channel is a place for community and connection, and your voice matters here. If you're comfortable, feel free to share this video with someone who might need it. Whether they're just starting their journey, questioning their identity, or even just trying to better understand the people in their lives. Every view, every share, every comment helps build a world where diverse stories aren't just heard, they're celebrated. And of course, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell so you don't miss out on more real conversations like this one. I've got a lot more coming your way, from relationship deep dives to intersectional identity chats, to those hard, necessary questions we need to be asking ourselves and each other. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and most importantly, stay you. Love is love, and your story is powerful. See you in the next one.